Hello and welcome to the regular news bulletin of RIUtv. My name is Nik Wood and it's my job to guide you through some of the highlights of research into use covering the last month. Back in September, 5 members of the UK's all-party parliamentary group on agriculture and food for development visited 2 RIU-backed programmes in Kenya. Heidi Alexander, one of the British MPs, was given free choice for a debate in the UK Parliament. She chose food security in Africa, and Heidi talked about her visit and described FIPS Africa as a fantastic project.
There are fantastic projects out there, though, which have the potential to be scaled up in a way which could offer real results. Take FIPS in Kenya, Farm Inputs Promotions, a DFID-funded, not-for-profit company which, through a network of village-based agricultural advisors, works with the private sector to get new seeds and fertilisers out to the farmers who need them.
In his reply to Ms Alexander, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for International Development, Stephen O'Brien, said,
and I noted that the leader of her all-party group, his noble Lord Cameron, was able to highlight a particularly interesting aspect on Shuja's FM radio, which I think all of the team must have seen. And this is very important evidence from these trips which comes back to DFID and that we're able then to incorporate into our thinking as we move forward, and particularly as the Foresight Group will be reporting early next year.
Naturally, we were delighted that evidence from 2 of our projects was used to encourage DFID to invest more in agriculture. Now, one of the emerging lessons which you can find in the learning section of the RIU website relates to the ability of research into use to be fleet of foot. This has involved greater flexibility in the funding of the Africa country programmes, which led to the Warrantage programme in Rwanda and to RIU Nigeria working with nearly 3,000 members of widows groups. Commissioned work is the funds that RIU uses centrally to respond to emerging opportunities and challenges. This month we're focusing on the work of a number of the programmes in this category. Clean yam planting material is the first of these programmes, and we're delighted that we have a new RIUtv film which sets out their progress to date. So here's an extract.
Seed yams contribute about 50% to the total cost of production of yams. And since this total cost is very high, it means that the quality of the seed yams are also very important, because if the seed yams are not of good quality, then the farmer loses more of what he's investing in the business.
We talked with our resident crop expert Andy Ward about some of the challenges faced by this programme when he recently visited the RIUtv studio.
Yam is probably the most important cultural crop in coastal West Africa, and DFID and other donors have been spending thousands of pounds conducting research into how to improve the productivity. Pests and diseases are the major problem, and it has been found that if you plant seed yam that doesn't have any of these pest problems on it, then you're going to harvest yam with up to 700% more production than if you plant a diseased yam. But with our best bet, the exciting bit is we're turning this into a business. We're showing farmers, big and small, that they can be entrepreneurs, producing seed yam for market, turning a good profit on that themselves, but then also providing seed yam for yam farmers to plant to further increase yam production.
For our next report, I've come here to the headquarters of the World Health Organization in Geneva. It's the location for the 3rd International Conference on Neglected Zoonotic Diseases. It is being partly funded by research into use, and members of the RIU-backed SOS programme, Stamp Out Sleeping Sickness, who are operating in Uganda and latterly in the Jos Plateau area of Nigeria, are represented here. There's a full report on the website, but here's a quick snippet of what they had to say about the progress on those programmes.
SOS has now got vets in place in these communities, in these very poor communities who were not served by a veterinary system, and they're able to buy and purchase and ensure a constant supply chain of product to the communities. So originally we had about 220,000 animals under treatment. We're up to about 500,000 now, so we've doubled our access, or the amount of people with access to the technology, and it seems to be working very well.
The latest piece of commissioned work, which is only just getting underway, examines the role of an independent technology broker to kickstart development programmes. The specialist technology investor H2O Venture Partners has been commissioned to search internationally for research products which may go beyond the technologies DFID funded under their Natural Resources Research Strategy that can be commercialised to meet market needs identified by RIU. I caught up with H2O and the RIU steering group to see how this first stage is going.
We have a process which begins with a thorough understanding of need at the highest level, and then works to find the technologies and solve the commercial challenges also to bring those technologies through to market and address those needs. There is massive untapped opportunity out there within the technology base, and I think within RIU there's a terrific network of knowledge partners to help identify the need and to facilitate the adoption of the right solutions. So we move through that sort of funnel from the long list from the steering committee, through the short list, through the business development, and after June 2011, over the 12 months beyond there, to actually develop new companies which are well focused on that market need, have the right business plan to deliver the solution, unlock value and grow. And so the end game is to have 2 novel businesses out there employing people in East Africa, creating value for the region and addressing those unmet market needs.
The second stage of the work is to explore new business models and technologies focused on post-harvest storage, agricultural telecoms applications and aquaculture, with the aim of building commercially sustainable businesses that can attract the best entrepreneurial management and deliver development impact. The next stage will be delivered by March 2011, so contact info@Research into Use if you want more information. RIU hopes this approach will shed valuable lessons on the potential for private investment in development, to add to the learning from Best Bets and the work of the Africa country programmes, where the private sector is an increasingly important player. The start of the new term at the School for Journalism and Mass Communication, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, is set to look very different this year. RIU wants to use the journalism students to communicate with farmers, initially on research into use subjects, but later on other agricultural issues. Science writing is a problem in most countries because naturally most journalism students are biased towards the arts and social sciences. Dr. Nasser Massoud, Associate Dean for the school, said this is a great initiative that will expose students to wider developmental issues than the traditional journalistic training that they get. Building such capacity will spark more interest from students, other journalists and media houses to cover more agriculture and rural development issues. Meanwhile, it's the end of term for RIU's involvement in the mechanisation programme, but the project itself is ploughing on. Earlier this year, we showcased RIU Tanzania's excellent film on mechanisation, explaining how farms were bundled together into cost-effective units for ploughing. In the past, each farmer was expected to cover the fuel costs of the tractor driving to and from their farm. By working together, these transport costs have been shared, and the cost of mechanisation has come within the reach of thousands. So why is RIU withdrawing from the project? Well, the good news is that the mechanisation officers who operate in the districts covered by the programme have taken up the Research into Use programme, and they're going to run with it in the future. Looking ahead now, on 30th of December 2010 sees the launch of the 4 Malawi pig markets. And the Malawi country team tells me that members of the livestock platform there are over the moon at the news. Well, the team has, of course, done a great job in getting these set up, and the interventions of the RIU programme has already stopped the pork processors going to South Africa to source pigs, because the farmers in Malawi were producing pigs they couldn't find markets for. We'll go back to Malawi in January to see how it all worked out, and we'll also have an update from the fish farming platform in Malawi. Check highlights on the RIU Malawi pages for more details. Back in May, we reported that the Kenyan Agriculture Minister, the Honourable Dr. Sally Kosgei, backed community-based armyworm forecasting at the Winning the War Against Armyworm conference. Now, indications for funds and targets have followed the minister's promises. Richard Musebi of the RIU-backed community-based armyworm forecasting initiative said, we understand that community-based armyworm forecasting will be one of the Permanent Secretary's performance indicators. This means that he will have a budget allocation. Locking in policy changes and mobilising resources takes time, but it's essential for a programme like Community Armyworm Forecasting that we work hand in glove with the Ministry of Agriculture. We mentioned in last month's bulletin that RIU Nigeria were holding a learning event, bringing together for the first time representatives of all three platforms. Well, it took place and it was a big success. It was held on a large cattle ranch at Abudo, Cross River State, and 40 people attended, representing all facets of RIU Nigeria's work.
You can see the bonfire in the background, which shows our celebration of the completion of the learning event for RIU Nigeria. It's been a very successful 3 days, where we've had lots of ideas and lots of celebration of the successes so far. But more importantly, we've started to look at how things can be sustained into the future. Whether that means an extension to RIU, or whether that means that different agencies need to work in different ways. All of our partners here, who are now letting their hair down, have started to think about how the RIU approach can be embedded into Nigeria.
So that's it for the RIUtv November news. Join us next month when Duncan, who you saw in action there in Nigeria, will be having an in-depth interview with Professor Ian Maudlin, who is, of course, the director of RIU. Bye for now.